But there was one problem. The humans had not given up without a fight. They had always been known for their resourcefulness, their ability to adapt, and their surprising strength in the face of danger. The Council had underestimated them, believing that their advanced technology would make the humans weak in comparison. But they were wrong. As the apex predator was being prepared for its mission, a bold voice cut through the chatter of the council chamber. "I volunteer to fight the creature," said Captain Ethan Drake, a human soldier. The room fell silent. The council leaders turned to each other in confusion. A human, volunteering to face the apex predator. They couldn't believe it. The human species was weak compared to the highly advanced alien civilizations of the Galactic Council. They had no hope of surviving, let alone defeating the predator. Captain Ethan Drake was a tall, strong man, his face hard and determined. His dark eyes reflected years of experience in battle. He was a soldier through and through, one who had seen the horrors of war, yet refused to give up. He knew this was the last chance for humanity. If they didn't fight back, they would be wiped from the galaxy forever. But he wasn't about to let that happen. His heart beat with the desire to protect his people. He didn't care if the council didn't believe in him. He would make them believe. The council leaders exchanged skeptical looks. "Are you sure, human?" one of them asked. "This creature is the deadliest being in the galaxy. It has never been defeated. What makes you think you can survive?" Ethan stood tall, his voice steady. "We may not have the technology you do, but we have something you don't. We fight for survival. We fight with everything we have, no matter the odds. And I'm not afraid." His words were met with mocking laughter from the council. "Very well," one of the leaders said. "We'll let you face the beast. But don't say we didn't warn you." The council had no faith in him, but they would watch, just to see how long the human would last against their apex predator. The next moments were filled with tension as Ethan prepared for the battle. He knew this was a challenge like no other. His mind raced as he thought of the strategies he could use, but there was no denying the overwhelming odds. The apex predator was faster, stronger, and far more deadly than any human being. Ethan had only one advantage: his mind. He would have to outsmart the creature if he had any chance of survival. As the time ticked down, Ethan was outfitted with the most advanced gear Earth had to offer. His suit was equipped with cloaking technology, energy shields, and advanced weapons, everything humanity had developed to fight back against invaders. But even with all this tech, he knew it would be his wits, his speed, and his will to survive that would determine the outcome. The apex predator was unleashed on Earth, a massive ship hovering above the planet's surface as it dropped the creature onto the battlefield. The ground shook as the predator landed, roaring in fury. It was an unstoppable force, but Ethan was determined to make it his mission to stop it. The council watched as the fight began, confident that the human would not last long. They believed they had won before the battle even started. But as the screen showed Ethan's determined face, the first hint of doubt crept into their minds. Could this human actually survive? Ethan took his first steps onto the battlefield, the apex predator's eyes locking onto him. It was about to be a battle like no other, one where the odds were stacked against humanity, but the human spirit refused to back down. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight to prove that humanity could stand tall, even in the face of impossible odds. The council had made a mistake. They didn't understand humans, and Ethan was about to show them just what humanity was capable of. The countdown had begun. The fate of humanity rested on this battle. Would Earth be crushed by the apex predator, or would a human soldier defy the impossible and prove that Earth was not to be underestimated? The first clash was about to unfold, and there was no turning back now. Ethan Drake stepped into the war zone, his every movement precise, his heart pounding with adrenaline. His mind raced as the enormity of what he was about to face settled in. Ahead of him, the apex predator was a living nightmare, its glowing red eyes locked onto him with hunger and fury. This was no ordinary beast. It was a weapon, designed to hunt and kill with ruthless efficiency. The ground beneath Ethan's feet shook as the predator stomped forward, its massive feet crushing everything in its path. Each of its steps seemed like thunder, and Ethan could feel the weight of its power. The air was thick with tension, and the silence that followed was broken only by the creature's low growl. Ethan's body was covered in the latest tech Earth had to offer, a lightweight suit designed for agility, equipped with cloaking devices and energy shields, though he knew these would only take him so far. He had no illusions about the creature's power. The cloaking device was his first line of defense, but it wouldn't last long against the predator's keen senses. He would have to rely on speed, strategy, and his ability to outthink the beast. The predator's growl turned into a blood-curdling roar as it lunged forward, its claws gleaming in the sunlight. Ethan reacted instantly, rolling to the side just as the beast's claws slashed the ground where he had been standing moments before. The ground splintered and cracked, sending debris flying into the air. The force of the attack left the earth scarred, but Ethan was already back on his feet, sprinting towards a nearby rocky outcrop to gain cover. His mind raced as he assessed the situation. The apex predator was fast, too fast for the average human to keep up with. Its strength was unmatched, and every strike seemed capable of tearing him apart. Ethan's only advantage was his human ingenuity. He had to be smarter, quicker, and more unpredictable than the creature that hunted him. He activated his suit's cloaking device, turning invisible for a few moments, and moved cautiously behind a large boulder. The creature's glowing eyes scanned the area, its head swiveling left and right. The predator's heightened senses were incredible. It could smell him, hear his movements, and likely even feel his presence in the air. Ethan had no time to waste. The clock was ticking, and every second counted. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the battlefield as the creature slashed through the rocks with terrifying precision. Ethan barely had time to react as the boulder exploded in a shower of rocks, forcing him to leap back to avoid being hit. He rolled to the ground, gritting his teeth as he barely managed to avoid the attack. The predator didn't stop. It was relentless. As Ethan pushed himself up, he noticed something that could be his advantage. A small, exposed weak spot on the creature's side, just below its ribs. It was a long shot, but it was the only opening he had. He activated his suit's targeting system and aimed for the spot. Ethan's fingers tightened around the trigger, his heart racing. The projectile shot out, its trajectory perfect. But just as it reached the beast, the predator twisted its body, dodging the attack with terrifying speed. The projectile hit the ground, exploding in a flash of light. The creature's red eyes narrowed, and it let out another deafening roar, furious now that its prey had dared to fight back. Ethan's pulse quickened. He knew he couldn't keep this up for long. His suit's cloaking device would only last so long, and his weapons were limited. His thoughts flashed to his team, back home on Earth. He couldn't afford to fail. Humanity needed him to succeed. With his heart in his throat, Ethan sprinted towards the creature once more, using his environment to his advantage. He slid behind a rocky outcrop, out of the creature's line of sight. His energy shield hummed to life, flickering on and off as it absorbed energy from the attacks that the predator had thrown at him. But Ethan knew his shield wouldn't hold forever. The ground trembled as the predator closed in, its footsteps heavy and purposeful. Ethan glanced around, searching for anything that could help him. His eyes locked onto a structure in the distance, an old research facility that had once been a part of Earth's defense network. If he could get to it, he might be able to find more advanced tech to level the playing field. The moment he made the decision, he bolted toward the facility, his legs pumping as fast as they could go. The predator was right behind him, its roar vibrating the air. Ethan could feel the heat of its breath on his back, and every instinct in his body screamed at him to run faster. Just as he reached the entrance of the facility, the ground beneath him buckled, and the apex predator's claws raked through the earth. Ethan dove into the doorway just as the beast lunged forward, its claws missing by mere inches. He stumbled into the dark facility, gasping for air. The door behind him slammed shut, and for a moment there was silence. Ethan's heart raced, and his mind raced faster. He had made it, but this wasn't over. He had entered the belly of the beast's lair, and now he had to face the creature in close quarters. Inside, the facility was dark, the air thick with dust, and the remnants of forgotten technology. It was the perfect place for a final showdown. Ethan didn't know if he had what it took to survive, but he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't going down without a fight. As he turned to face the beast, the walls seemed to close in. There was no turning back now. It was time to finish this. The fight was far from over. Ethan could feel the tension in the air as he stared down the apex predator, its glowing eyes locked on him with deadly intent. Inside the dark, abandoned facility, every step he took echoed, reminding him of the high stakes. His energy shield was flickering, and his cloaking device was nearly depleted. He knew he had one shot at turning this around. The predator was relentless. It growled low in its throat, sending a chill down Ethan's spine. With each step, the floor beneath him seemed to tremble, and the temperature in the room seemed to rise, as if the creature's very presence was heating the air. The walls were lined with old technology, long-forgotten research and weapon systems that could change the tide of this battle. Ethan's mind raced. He wasn't just fighting for his life anymore. He was fighting for the survival of humanity. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. His mind flashed back to the briefing he'd received before being sent on this mission. The humans weren't alone in this fight. They had help in the form of advanced AI and technology that had been developed in secret. The apex predator may have been powerful, but humans had one thing the aliens couldn't predict: ingenuity. With quick, calculated movements, Ethan moved deeper into the facility. His footsteps were silent, but his senses were on high alert. His eyes scanned the room, searching for something, anything that could give him an advantage. The walls of the facility were lined with old control panels, some of them still humming faintly with power. If he could get them online, he could use the facility's ancient weapon systems against the predator. As Ethan approached one of the control panels, he hesitated. The predator's growl was growing louder. It was closing in on him, its claws scraping against the floor, sending a chill down his spine. Ethan didn't have much time. He reached for the panel and began typing in the commands, his fingers moving quickly and with precision. His breath was shallow, but he focused. If he could just get the facility's weapon systems online, he might be able to create a diversion. The screen flickered to life, and for a moment, Ethan thought he was going to fail. But then, a faint beep echoed through the room. He looked at the screen and saw the words, "Weapons systems activated." His heart skipped a beat. The facility's weapons, designed to protect Earth from alien invaders, were still functional. But as he looked at the screen, Ethan realized something else. The systems weren't just designed to defend. They were designed to destroy. The predator wasn't the only threat in this place. Ethan's hand hovered over the final command, a pulse weapon capable of obliterating everything in its path. He hesitated. If he triggered it now, the explosion could take out the entire facility, and him along with it. But he had no choice. He couldn't defeat the predator with brute force alone. He needed a plan. A memory flashed in Ethan's mind. The AI developed for missions just like this. It was programmed to think on its feet, to predict outcomes, and to adapt. Humanity's genius had created this AI as a backup in case the worst happened. Ethan accessed the AI's interface and began to communicate with it directly. "Initiate distraction sequence," he whispered, hoping the AI could understand him even in the heat of the moment. The screen flashed, and the AI responded in a calm, monotone voice. "Distraction sequence initiated. Prepare for diversion." Ethan's heart raced as he watched the control panel come to life. Suddenly, loud alarms blared, and lights began flashing throughout the facility. The predator's head snapped toward the sound, its eyes narrowing in confusion. For the first time, it was caught off guard. Ethan used the momentary distraction to his advantage. He sprinted toward the weapons cache at the far end of the room, hoping that the predator wouldn't notice him. Behind him, the predator roared in anger, but it was momentarily disoriented. Ethan had bought himself a few precious seconds. Reaching the weapons cache, he quickly grabbed a weapon designed to pierce the thick armor of the predator. It was a long shot, but it was the best chance he had. Ethan turned back toward the creature, which was now charging toward him in a blind rage. The floor shook with each of its enormous steps, but Ethan didn't flinch. He aimed the weapon at the creature's weak spot, the area just below its ribs. He steadied his breath, focusing all his energy on the target. The moment felt like an eternity as the predator drew closer, its claws reaching out to tear him apart. But just as the creature lunged, Ethan pulled the trigger. The weapon fired with a crack, and the energy blast hit its mark. The explosion was deafening. The predator let out an ear-splitting roar of pain as it stumbled backward, its armor cracked and smoking. Ethan didn't wait for it to recover. He moved quickly, reloading the weapon and preparing for another strike. But the predator was weakening. It was no longer the unstoppable force it had been moments before. Ethan's heart raced as he watched the creature falter, its movements sluggish now. It had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back. The plan was working. The predator let out one final furious roar before collapsing to the ground. Ethan stood over it, breathless and battered, but victorious. The creature that had once seemed invincible was now nothing more than a fallen beast, its reign of terror ended by the ingenuity of a single human. For the first time in this battle, Ethan allowed himself a breath of relief. Humanity had turned the tables. The apex predator had been defeated, not by brute strength, but by strategy, technology, and human willpower. And this was just the beginning. There were more battles to come, but for now, Ethan had proven that the apex predator was not invincible. Humanity had just won its first major victory against the alien invaders, and it was only the beginning. Ethan stood over the fallen apex predator, his heart still pounding in his chest. The battle had taken everything from him, his energy, his focus, and his will to survive. But as he caught his breath, he knew that this was far from over. The apex predator was only one part of the greater threat humanity faced. Beyond the creature lay an even bigger danger, the Galactic Council. They wouldn't stop until they had wiped out humanity, and they wouldn't be pleased with what had just happened. Ethan knew that time was running out. The facility was quiet now, except for the occasional hum of the machines and the faint crackling of the predator's scorched body. Ethan wiped his brow, and his hand trembled slightly. He couldn't let his guard down. He needed to finish what he started. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the facility. Ethan's eyes shot open, and his heart skipped a beat. The floor shook beneath him, and a distant, terrifying roar filled the air. It was the sound of more predators, or worse. Ethan quickly grabbed his weapon and sprinted toward the source of the noise. The doors to the next chamber were sealed, but they wouldn't hold for long. The walls of the facility began to tremble as an enormous explosion rocked the building. Ethan stumbled, nearly losing his balance. The blast had come from the outside. He could feel the shockwave as it ripped through the structure. This wasn't just an attack. It was a full-scale invasion. The Galactic Council had sent reinforcements. Ethan's mind raced. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and nearly out of options. But there was one thing he knew. Humanity had never backed down from a fight. And this was no different. The last few months had taught him that humans were resourceful, determined, and always willing to fight for survival, no matter the odds. He quickly accessed his communicator, sending out a distress signal to Earth. "This is Captain Ethan Brooks. We need immediate reinforcements. The Galactic Council is launching a full-scale attack. Prepare for battle." No response. His heart sank. He had hoped for more time. But the attack had already begun. Ethan was about to turn back when he heard the sound of heavy footsteps echoing down the corridor. He ducked behind a stack of crates, holding his breath. His pulse quickened. He knew that if he was caught, he wouldn't make it out alive. Peering around the corner, Ethan saw what he feared. More of the apex predators, followed by soldiers in advanced armor. They were armed to the teeth with energy weapons and advanced technology. Their leader, a towering figure covered in reinforced metal, surveyed the wreckage of the previous battle with a cold, calculating gaze. The Galactic Council had sent their best. This was the final showdown. The Predator leader's voice echoed through the hall, booming with authority. The human has defeated one of our best, but it will not stop us. We will crush Earth and its pathetic inhabitants. Ethan gritted his teeth. The odds seemed impossible, but he had faced worse. He couldn't back down now. With a deep breath, he activated his cloaking device and moved silently toward the Predator leader. His plan was simple: strike fast, strike hard, and create chaos. He needed to give humanity a chance to regroup. He sprinted through the facility, using the shadows to his advantage. The cloaking device worked, but just barely. The air felt thick with tension as he neared the leader. His mind raced. He only had one shot at this. Suddenly, the facility's alarm blared again. The overhead lights flickered, and the entire building shook. The reinforcements were closing in. Ethan's heart raced as he drew closer to the enemy leader. He had no time to hesitate. With a swift motion, he lunged from the shadows, aiming for the leader's exposed weak spot, the neck. The Predator leader turned just in time, swinging its enormous fist toward Ethan. The force of the blow sent him crashing into the wall, his body slamming hard against the cold metal. For a moment, the world went black. When Ethan came to, he was on his knees, disoriented and battered. His energy shield was down, and his cloaking device was fried. The Predator leader loomed over him, its glowing eyes filled with rage. "Foolish human," the Predator hissed. "You are no match for the power of the Galactic Council." Ethan's vision blurred as he struggled to stay conscious. But in that moment, something inside him snapped. He couldn't let humanity fall. Not now. Not after everything they had fought for. He reached for his weapon, pulling himself up with all the strength he could muster. The Predator leader swung again, but this time, Ethan was ready. He dodged the attack, rolling to the side, and fired his weapon. The blast hit the leader square in the chest, but it barely slowed the creature down. "Is that all?" The Predator snarled. It charged again, faster than before. Ethan's mind raced. He had to buy time. He needed a miracle. And then it happened. From the corner of his eye, Ethan saw a group of human soldiers burst through the door, led by a powerful figure, Captain Laura McKinney. The reinforcements had arrived. Without missing a beat, Captain McKinney shouted, "Now, Ethan." Ethan didn't need to be told twice. He ducked low and fired once more, hitting the Predator leader directly in the heart. The beast let out a final scream before it collapsed, lifeless. But there was no time to celebrate. The battle was still raging. The reinforcements had just arrived, but the Galactic Council's forces were still overwhelming. Ethan and the soldiers had a chance, but they had to fight together. Humanity's last stand had only just begun. But in this moment, Ethan knew one thing for sure. Against all odds, humanity would never stop fighting. They had proven that in the face of impossible odds, they could still stand tall. And now, with the final battle ahead, it was their time to finish what they had started. The battle was over. The final echoes of gunfire faded, leaving only the hum of damaged machinery and the soft groans of injured soldiers. The battlefield, once a place of chaos and destruction, now lay eerily quiet. The Galactic Council's reinforcements were defeated, their powerful weapons and advanced technology no match for the human spirit. The apex predators, once seen as unbeatable, lay lifeless across the facility, their threat finally neutralized. Ethan, still breathing heavily from the fight, looked around at the surviving soldiers. His body ached, and his mind was tired, but the overwhelming sense of triumph filled him. The war wasn't over, but today, humanity had won a monumental victory. Captain Laura McKinney approached him, her expression a mix of relief and exhaustion. "We did it, Ethan. We actually did it." Ethan wiped the blood from his face and nodded. "Yeah, but we didn't do it alone. We fought as one. It's what got us through." The two of them stood together, surveying the wreckage. The soldiers, though bruised and battered, shared the same unspoken bond of victory. They had fought for their planet, for their families, and for their future. Despite the odds, they had come out on top, and that was something the Galactic Council would never forget. Back at Earth Command, the news had already spread. Humanity had faced the might of the Galactic Council and had come out victorious. The victory, though hard-won, would become a symbol of hope for future generations. The message was clear. Earth was no longer a planet to be underestimated. They had proven that they could stand up to the most powerful forces in the galaxy. But as the human forces celebrated, there was still one matter left to resolve: the Galactic Council's humiliation. The aliens had believed they could wipe out humanity with ease, but they had underestimated one thing: the strength of human resolve. They had been proven wrong, and their defeat would reverberate throughout the galaxy.